Welcome to the 030 Tango podcast. I'm Jonas, the creator of 030 Tango, and for the past decade I have preferred to operate behind the camera. However, there are times when a face is needed to help convey the stories that truly deserve to be told. From the inception of my tango video making journey, I have been captivated by the tales of those who have dedicated their lives to this culture. During the very first festival I ever filmed, I had the privilege of conducting a brief interview with the wonderful Stefania Colina and Juan Martin Carrara. This encounter resulted in one of my favorite films I ever made. For the past year, I have contemplated the future direction of the channel. It had been some time since I conducted extensive interviews, and I desired more than mere fragments of information. Thus, the solution became clear. A long-form interview format. We shall refer to it as a podcast, for lack of a better term. However, videos will remain the primary mode of delivery. At the same time, I'll try to consistently publish an audio-only version on all the popular podcast platforms. My favorite podcasts create an atmosphere of listening to an interesting conversation at a kitchen table. My kitchen is rather petite, so I shall extend invitations to guests within my working space and allow the conversation to unfold. Primarily, the guests will consist of professional tango dancers, as we are fortunate to have many of them pass through Berlin during their travels. On occasion, you shall also be introduced to local people from the Berlin tango scene and other individuals connected to the world of tango. For example, fashion designers or organizers of big international festivals. As the host, I will be responsible for maintaining a coherent narrative throughout the episodes. However, I humbly request your patience as I adjust to the new on-camera role. Even before my tango endeavors, I had never aspired to occupy a public position. Nevertheless, please remember that 030 Tango remains a project driven primarily by passion and enjoyment. It's a rather solitary undertaking, relying heavily upon my dedication and personal resources, together with the organizers who invite me. If you wish to support the work that I'm doing, you can sign up right now as a supporter of 030 Tango. I skipped Patreon and moved everything to 030tango.com. If you wish to support the work that I'm doing, you can sign up right now as a supporter of 030 Tango. Go to 030tango.com/support. You will gain early access to new podcast episodes and exclusive video content. When you listen to this, you can already watch the second episode with Agustina Piaggio and Carlitos Espinosa right now. Moreover, your engagement matters greatly. Kindly express your appreciation by liking the video, leaving a thumbs up, and sharing your thoughts in the comment sections on YouTube. Let's show the algorithm what we really like. And if you find a spare moment after that, I kindly request that you venture over to iTunes, where you can leave a review. Should you have any feedback regarding the podcast, specific topics you wish to be covered, or desired guests to be invited, I encourage you to write an email to podcast@030tango.com. Your thoughts and suggestions will help me to move this show forward. This has been a way longer intro than future episodes will have. It's also more text than I will have the rest of the entire podcast episode. I enjoyed having two of my favorite dancers on 030 Tango for the first episode. During their weekend in Berlin, where I organized workshops for the very first time ever, they joined me on Saturday night to sit down for an extensive chat. Without further ado, Lorena Tarantino and Gianpiero Galdi. Welcome to Berlin for your first time working here, and it's another first because it's the first time on the 030 Tango podcast.
Yeah, very excited.
Yeah, it's very nice to have you. We just started with a lot of workshops. But before we get into any questions, how can people who want to follow you around on your tour get in contact with you?
So first of all, we have our website. It's very easy, www.lorenagianpiero.com.
We are mostly active on Facebook, so that's the best option to follow up.
I know, like a few years ago, we already did a interview in Cluj, like 2016, I think. But
that was a few years ago.
Yeah,
right?
We know each other for a while. I would like to ask maybe some questions again, because also Lorena has joined us now. How did you both start to dance tango?
I started 10 years ago. It's almost 10 years ago since I started in October 2013. And I started just because my sister proposed me to join a tango course, and to invite me to the course, he presented me a video of Gianpiero with Mila. I still remember it. I was amazed by this video. It was Este Serrei, danced by them. And she showed me that video also because Gianpiero was the teacher of that first beginner course. And after that, I jumped into this world, super in love with this art. And Gianpiero has always been my guide during this path.
Well, I assure that I don't pay her to say this. But no, it was very interesting moment, and I was always keen to bring tango to youngsters, and that was an opportunity to make a tango course for a bunch of adolescents, pretty much. You were all 16, 17, and 18 years old, and most of them were former ballet students, so it was also very exciting for me to share tango background, tango basics to people that had a ballet background, so they were extremely quick, maybe too much, I would say. so now that was interesting. Well, about me, I think it's a pretty interesting coincidence that we are currently in May 2023. And I started dancing tango in May 2003. So actually, I'm currently celebrating my 20th year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And in my case, I was even younger than when Lorena started. But because my family is a dancing family, they were my parents very much into tango when they kind of forced me and my sister to start. I was 12, she was 11. And then eventually, basically because of my father, kept tango course for also my fellow friends, and everybody, all of us were very young adolescents, and everybody was 12, 13, 14 years old. And it was a happy time, since we were, yes, doing tango, which was mostly for grown-up people, but we didn't feel that, as we were 20, 30 kids, and we were having fun while learning it. So eventually it was very interesting and fun process at the beginning.
Are some people of that group still dancing? Do you still know them?
Unfortunately not. I would say that they... I kind of always managed to attract people of my same age. So during my adolescence, I kept having friends of my age, and eventually in the time of university, I also managed to attract some fellow students at the university, but they kind of drifted away. Mostly the university time, some people kept dancing, and that's a fun thing. Even nowadays, that most of the students doing tango at the university time were Erasmus students doing their project for 1 year. So I keep meeting people around the world, actually, that they are, many of them kept dancing tango. So each once in a while I meet them from back then.
Oh, awesome. So we know how you met each other. When did you know you want to work together?
Gianpiero proposed me 5 years ago.
Yeah.
It's already.
It
was 2018. But yeah, you can tell this.
No, it was a moment for me of change. I did quite a lot of freelancing, which I'm incredibly grateful for the time and to my previous partners, as I always had the opportunity, and I kind of seek these opportunities of working with more experienced professionals. So I started, Lorena was remembering the time back when I was dancing with Mila Vigdorova, and then I had partnership with Corina Herrera, Nadia Chronidou, Cesira Micheli, and eventually Maria Filali, which was the last of, I might forget others, but these were the main ones with which I shared and also learned a lot during the process. So when we kind of completed a cycle with Maria, and I wanted to create a more stable project, I kept thinking what would have been the best strategy if to go with someone that was completely unknown, or to find someone in another country. And eventually Lorena was working with another student of a very interesting group. She might tell more about this, but we had a very interesting group of young professionals, and kind of in the same time they stopped dancing together. So I had I was always very methodic, so I had a list of possible partners, and she was not in this list since she was taken, let's say. But then eventually it came to my mind that even if she had a very little experience and she was very new in the tango world, we were sharing a common background, as she learned with me, and she also had the opportunity to start a professional career that was not with me. So she also had this part of outer source of experience. So eventually there was the proof of fire, I would say. I kind of dragged her to Buenos Aires. I didn't tell her, but it was like a check if it was possible. And we had a very first performance in the most stressing environment ever. We were in a Misterio Tango Festival organized by Gaston Torelli, and there were about 20 couples invited, among the best ones ever. And we had our first performance inside this festival, and Chino Laborde and Analia Goldberg were playing from Ojos de Tango. And everybody in the Gotha was there, and was in Salon Canning fully packed. So, and she had the very first performance together, and I would say that she did pretty well. And so, and that's it. So we started back then, and I would say that apparently it was a good investment for both of us to believe in doing a project together.
Yeah, when he asked me to perform there, I thought it was like a joke. It was out of the blue, like just asking for this show in Buenos Aires, in Salon Canning. And I was dancing, I was getting into the professional path, but I was dancing only since 5 years, so not very experienced, I might say. And I was quitting dancing with my previous partner, Giovanni, and because he enrolled in another career. And when actually before asking me this, he was asking me and Giovanni our opinions on
who to add to the list.
Who to dance with. So we were looking videos with dancers that didn't have a partner yet. So it was really strange when he asked me to dance together and actually had this performance there as first.
But did you expect that something would come out of it, or you thought it was a one-time thing?
I hoped, I might say, but I was also trying not to put many expectations, I must say. So I was enjoying the process, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. And like I filmed you the first time in 2019 in Cluj, I think. And I think it changed a lot how you danced together. Like it grew really strongly together. Were there surprises on your way, like over the last 4 or 5 years working together, like where it went to, or did you expect, okay, we will just go for it?
Well, since we kind of grew and trained with some goals, one of them was to stay true to some directions that we wanted. One of these was research into dance. So after the good old times of the big research in tango motion and opportunities, I would say that those guys on which shoulders all of us grew pretty much discovered everything that there was. So to that extent, the opportunities that were opened were still very interesting from the point of view of musical improvisation and development and style characterization. So something we tried from the very beginning and gave our philosophy. It's first of all to always improvise. We don't exclude that at one point might be very artistically interesting to try to do choreography, just maybe to push the boundaries. But so far, all our performances were based on improvisation, and to be actual improvisation has to change over time. Otherwise, it becomes so much of a habit that, I mean, we still believe that our shows look too similar. So, but we do try to change over time, and we always have a lot of fun to even talk about new movements. So we are kind of geeks of understanding motion, and even if she's a follower, she's also very much into building the structure of dance. So like there are some movies in which there are about chess, and the characters talk about, and they have this chess game, only verbal, knight in the 7 or whatever, and we kind of do this. So aside from the practice room where we actually do the motion, many of our talks are like, and if I do this, do that, and then you would, what if, and she said, no, that's not possible because you would have to do this or that. And so a lot of possibilities or ideas, again, not that they were original in itself, but the build-up of some structures were thought in this way. So yes, we are trying to renovate. I hope it shows somehow.
Can you explain like the way you see your roles as a follower and a leader in the dance, like on the performances, but also in social dancing?
I really love this question because I remember when I started dancing, I was 17. I was mainly interested, I have to say, into the motion. So I was fascinated by big motions, voleos and out of axis and big stuff. And I wanted strongly to do them on the dance floor. And I felt that I was pushing a lot the leaders to do them. And then I learned adornos, and then I was a lot into expressing myself, kind of stealing the leading space of the leader. And at one point, I fully changed this, because I felt a little bit the leaders that start to be kind of annoyed by this. I could feel that it was not super interesting for them, this invasive attitude. But also I was annoyed by myself doing that. So I got super fascinated by the process that the leader was building. So trying to get into it. So I have to say that I had a second moment in which I was mostly into following, into trying to get into his process fully. So not adding adornos, for example, trying to not add even more energy to the motions. It was, at least I tried as much as I could to be very precise in the following process. But then I discovered that on myself it was almost impossible to be like a machine, fully following it. And it was not because I couldn't stop myself from proposing. It was mostly because I recognized that even unconsciously, my body was proposing, influencing the leader. And it was part of it unconscious because of my preferences, and part of it unconscious because as a person I was focused on something. But there are so many things that are not in my focus that are still influencing the leader. And it could be my balance. I could maybe stay more on the forefeet during the dance, and it strongly influences the leader proposition, because he feels that, and maybe he starts to lead stuff that are for that kind of body alignment. This is just an example to say that this is something that I got very interested in, and it is trying to understand how my body elasticity, body compactness, body balance, and my interpretation of the music, so my listening of the music, my embrace, how all these components were influencing the leader in the process. And I started to listen my body while doing it, and also trying to also understand how leaders were shaping this mutual understanding. And it was very also nice to see it on the dance floor. Sometimes you see one dancer dancing with different leaders, and and you see that there are many things that are very similar. And even though it's always a different dance, but you can see some similarities, and you can see that there is part of a personality in the body, and of course it's a mindful process. And this is also by leaders. So there is a personal space, there is for sure a follower space in which we can move, there is a leader space, but there is also a common part in which there are components that, and these components are not fighting among. It's not about who's stronger than the other in the personality, which was a little bit how I felt in the beginning, trying to push my personality into the leader path, while now I feel that it's more engaging into the other into the other process. So trying to really match in a physical but also mindful process.
What you're saying, it makes me think that I totally stand by you with this idea that it's okay to try. We want to enjoy, but we shouldn't, I think, stress too much in assert our individuality at all costs, as we are all different, and this is already a fact. Like, it's enough to just be and do what you are currently doing, because as we are constantly try to improve, but not improve on a very specific scale, like every stair, it's a stair higher, but to move in the realm and change for sometimes for the better, sometimes for different, and sometimes to follow what's interesting, because in the end what interests us makes us do with excitement what we do. To this extent, it's a big topic, this about following, leading, and more in the modern world becomes a gender thing and personal freedom thing. But within the game that we're playing while dancing tango, which I don't mean that it will never change, who knows? And even currently there are games of dance that can be assumed at the side of what is more traditionally speaking the normal communication of leading following. What we are doing is as dancers, not we, but all of the social dancers, is to mix the personal story of each one, what makes us excited about the dance, and what we can see and replicate from what we like done by others. I'd like to quote, I hope to quote it well enough, a very famous writer, Neil Gaiman, that was talking about personal style in writing, and he was saying something like that what we are doing, what every writer, and I feel very relevant to dance itself, is doing, is copying stuff done by others and try to match an image or a standard. And a style, personal style, is what you get wrong about it. So by trying to replicate, I want to do this and that like this dancer, or this or that like I imagined, or this and that like a video that I want to replicate, and what you get wrong, so to speak, personalized by body proportions, style, what's more what you're more enthusiastic about, ends up being what you are in that specific time frame. So to wrap this up, I don't think we should stress too much in being original at all costs, and to assert our individuality also from a follower point of view, because every body moves different already. Every taste, it's already characterized. So I think that doing what you do, it's already enough. So would also be enough not to crystallize in a shape, but keep it fluid in motion a long time. So it's gonna be already interesting and attractive to someone else to witness, and in our case, embrace and touch and share.
Yes, oh, awesome. You talked a lot about like that you talk a lot about the dancing itself, and then you go to the training room. Can you describe a bit the process there, how you practice, how much you practice? I think people are very interested on how much you have to work to get there.
So we unfortunately don't have a standard. We would love to be more methodic on this. We have more moments in which if we are free, that we have time, we would collect a lot of training and new stuff that eventually get diluted in time, and we have time to think about it. So when we are doing the actual dancing practice, contrary to one might think, is not that we go to the dance floor and we tell to each other, okay, let's be creative today. It's mostly a matter of trusting the process, I would say. We normally like to start with a little of warm up, and we have group, I would say, of exercises, repetitive exercise, that we call routines, and we are always very available on sharing them with students. Routine of movements that are kind of touching all the different areas of tango motions. And I always loved the idea of, in tango, of kind of meditating in motion. So we kind of make repetitive movements until we get in the feeling, and we start to understand each other, and we feel each other better, and we start to sweat, and we kind of enter in this state of dancing. And then very usually we come to the practice room with an idea. Could be a research area, like the kind of hip alignment during something, so very specific, or more broad, like the musical subdivision of a dance to kind of create a climatic wave. Something can be very specific or more abstract. And then after sharing on this area, usually only at the end we kind of allow ourselves free practice that at that point is probably already being influenced by the warm-up at the beginning, by the routines, and probably already by the stuff that come up with the topic of the day, let's say. And so, yeah, that I would say is the recipe.
I'd like to add that part of our practice is not only the training itself, the physical training, but it's a lot in our talks and a lot on the inspirations that we get from colleagues and from students or from the social dancing. So we love to question our dance and our also didactic by the external feedbacks, but also what we see from outside and what we feel. So at least I really enjoy this, and I feel it very important as a dancer. What he thinks and what I think while talking with him about dancing, about expressing in shows, but also doing the didactic. And sometimes it's even weird, like we wake up in the morning and one of us maybe dreamt of something, of a step or a taste in a show, or even didactic stuff. And yep,
I dream very often about motions. So I wake up and I say, we need to practice something right now. But aside from this, I also have to, I actually not ashamed at all to say that we watch a lot of videos, first of all, and there wouldn't be any reason why to be ashamed of this, because it's we strongly recommend, not just to social dancers, to chew a lot of videos from anybody.
I recommend that too.
But also to colleagues, it's very good. And what I'm not ashamed of is that we copy and steal a lot of things. I would say everything that we do, it's somehow being inspired. Of course, what we try to do is to, rather than copy paste exactly as it is, we try to keep being inspired by what others do, and maybe the very first thing, if we are not creative that day, is to mix. So we take a piece from one couple and a piece to the other couple, and we mix it, and it's already coming something different. And as much as possible, give it a twist. So it's something new. It's actually what the process of the whole community is about, like mixing and steering each other's stuff.
Do you also still take classes with other teachers? Do you go somewhere like to get some like specific inspiration from other couples?
Yes.
Yeah, of course. So when we can, as recently, well, luckily we are in a city. We are currently living in Turin, which is a city that has quite often other teachers. Unfortunately, this happens during weekends, so we are busy ourselves. But when we can, we absolutely go. And yeah, so we care very much on keeping the process going. So it's about taking lessons, and recently we also had a meeting with many other colleagues to talk about some elements. And also, aside from tango, we try our best to collect information from body disciplines or more theoretical. So it's not just to improve, because we do care, but also kind of I would think I will repeat this concept of keeping the things in motion, as everything that is static eventually dries out.
And at the same time, people come to you for inspiration, like lots of students. What would you expect of the students, like when they come to you as an idea? Why should they come to you? Like their motivation?
Shall I go? This?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I don't want to tell why they should. I can tell you, at least from what they tell us, why many do, or what they could take, is that we are Italians, first of all, and although we studied extensively with many big teachers, and as I told you, we spend a lot of time on constantly watching what's happening in the tango world, and went so many times to Buenos Aires and many other places to take information. We are not representing tango culture from that point of view. So we share what we are excited about. We are moving inside a very global, at this point, movement, cultural movement, that is now the global tango, I would say. And we are very excited in some aspects of it. That is our field of research, I would say. So we studied a lot the principles of connection, so how to understand each other better, and we studied a lot body mechanics, and went into training either other disciplines to understand body movement better. And we are always very open to share what we found out that is not necessarily carved in stone, but this is also what excites us, not just to share something, look, this is like this, also because we are not coming from that point, but we are coming in a point in which we can very confidently share the process that brought us as of today to that answer. And we are not afraid of sharing the reasons why we believe that in that moment, and then eventually might change within this stream. And also we are very interested in the musical improvisation process. So although I had the musical background in the adolescence, but got lost in time. So it's not so much about studying the music itself, but the possibilities of improvisation. And we crafted many tools to boost either creativity, either mixing of structures. And this is, for example, another thing that we love to share. So we love to share, and might probably be interesting to people to take what we are in the first place excited about.
Mm-hmm. How do you develop then the tools to share? Because you have topics for workshops. Do you say once a year, okay, we need new topics, or is it a constant process? How long do you keep the topics, for example? Can you tell about that?
So I still want you to answer this, mostly because he developed a method of teaching, strategies of teaching, even earlier meeting me. So I met him during the process, but still I want you to answer this.
So in short, I might say that, and I always care to share this, that the way in which one teaches, none of us should really believe that what we teach is true just as it is. Didactics and the pedagogy and the art of sharing knowledge is mostly a strategy, as we are, especially in an artistic environment as tango, that is cultural, is popular, yet still it's I like to define it like a social art that acts within the boundaries of a culture movement. So what I was always very interested, since I always took lesson with many teachers, and at the beginning I kind of wasn't frustrated by the apparent controversies that the opinions of many teachers have, but eventually, like every tango dancer knows, many opinions kind of clash, and by being irritated by this, I tried to collect as much information as I could, and I felt the need of organizing them in a more methodic way. And eventually I started to be less and less irritated, because even the most controversial and opposite opinions started to make sense in the bigger picture, because everybody wants to have a good time, everybody has a center of gravity of the tango average thing. If every particular dancer, we could circle them all the styles, everything that happens in tango, like a tango galaxy of what there is, we could kind of deduct the center of this universe as this metaphorical average of everything that happens. So the average of what people are seeking in connection, the average of styles, the average of all. And I started to think that opposite opinions were actually linked to the same goals. So many teachers, us included, start to be so in love with our own didactic strategies and our own exercises and our own style to fall in the danger of being biased about it and put the strategy ahead of the actual thing. The actual thing, how tango feels and what tango is about, I strongly believe, as for today, I might, who knows. But as for today, I strongly believe that is a question that should not be answered, because the objective truth of anything escapes the descriptions and the words. So each one of us gives his own interpretation. And as soon as we start strong claims about this is this and this is that, and you do this in this way, we are automatically excluding all the rest. So to come back to the beginning of this, didactics is about a strategy. I have an undescribable personal knowledge that is until I don't speak it, it doesn't have a shape. As soon as I give words for it, as soon as I use adjectives, we create limits, we create boundaries, and these are not that anymore. But until we don't do it, it's this undescribable, and we need to use strategy to transfer that knowledge. This is what didactics is about. So what I try to do is to create kind of an imaginary map of stuff and putting movements inside of family of movements, and trying what could be not the most, but a very efficient way, as efficient as possible, to transfer by designing exercises that somehow transfer knowledge without describing it too much. So we are constantly into finding, there is some people that talk about idiokinesis, for example, which is a supposed discipline that is about crafting images to move the body in a proper way. And so the philosophy under it is that a good image makes a good movement even without doing anything. So if we can picture in our mind a good example of something, we can already arrange our motion in order to feel some specific things. So we are constantly trying to craft exercises that might convey either conditioning, either coordination for stuff that we judge important in tango dancing. And that's why we always keep our topics very open. We would never write in the topic the exact motion that we are going to do, because we use very on purpose ambiguous names to the topics, so to kind of navigate depending on the people and depending a lot on what we feel like sharing that day. So we recently had a whole bunch of new topics for this 2023 year. But I shall confess also to people that are watching and to our organizers that we mostly change the topics because students want novelty. So basically we teach the same area, but by giving a different name, we play a little trick of conveying the excitement for novelty. But since we always change the sequence, if this is the concern, it's always different. So even the same topic, we travel to 10 countries, is going to be 10 different sequences inside the same big concept. And big concept are not so much anyway.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
I must add more practical thing that I want to underline that our classes are very often about conditioning exercises. And we strongly believe that there are different processes in the learning of tango. And one could be the regular classes, another one could be workshops with teachers once in a while, or another moment is the practica. And we try to differentiate between them. We have regular classes in Torino where we maybe go slower to go deeper in a more regular way, while when we travel abroad, we offer we cannot offer this regularity. So we try our best to propose a method, really a method to practice what we are doing during the class. So most of the work of the class, we don't expect the students to make it in the moment, but we hope that they would bring home this the exercises and what we suggest to work on. And there's also the online technique, which we really love to do. That was something new that we discovered from the pandemic, which was a big boost for our didactic, because we were focusing a lot on the individual technique, which before the pandemic was maybe not the most important part of classes, while now we I would say we open more our conditioning practices of individual technique in tango. So yeah, we try to propose a method to practice, which has been also something on which in our learning process, I guess it was also for you, was especially in the first years of tango, it's a bit of a struggle. Like you take classes and then you want to practice, but sometimes you feel confused. So I must admit that this was a big part of my tango path, trying to be more methodic, following mostly his methodic mind into the practice of tango.
Would you recommend your students to go also to other teachers, or do you think it's an advantage
Absolutely.
to stay with one? Yeah.
And also, this would relieve us from the burden of covering everything.
Yeah.
So it's not just that they should definitely. And I don't say, I again repeat the concept. If a student, an imaginary student, relies only to us for information, we would be covered by responsibility of covering everything from every point of view, while we can enjoy being more true to our subjective taste, and again excitement of sharing what we like to share the most, if we don't have to cover everything for a student, that anyway wouldn't be possible for us. So we would just inefficiently struggle to be as broad as possible, while we do love, and I'm totally honest for it, not just because it might sound good to say it. We love that tango word is so extended and is so broad, and there are so many opinions, because in the end of the day, you choose who to listen for that period of time. So people choose, and the ability to choose among larger options grants us the opportunity to keep doing our research without being compelled of coming to the center I was talking before. We can keep there.
On your own planet.
Well, hopefully not, but it's at least like in a
part of
in
the
an
tango
area,
universe.
Yeah.
So you travel all over the world with for your classes, for your students, festivals and workshops. Is there a place that comes to your mind spontaneously that inspired you the most?
Many cities. Istanbul, it's been very inspiring. It's tango-wise, it's very crowded, so it's very energetic. But, or for example, Seoul, also it's another big city in tango. But also little communities sometimes are very inspiring, because you can see that people feel really responsible for their tango community. Since there are maybe few people, you could see that they are responsible for it. They they really invest a lot of energies into spreading the word, or let everybody enjoy the party, like the milonga or the class, because they know that it matters as an individual. And so I would say in general, yes.
Well, just to share, maybe if I feel the need of saying what's the most, I don't know, but I can share a few spots that are, I think, for us were very interesting. First of all, we got currently this opportunity of traveling so much. Still puzzled why, but we are enjoying it until it lasts, and we are having really the best time ever, and witnessing how global can be a community that in the end of the day does a similar thing. So with pouring in it their personal culture. And so one community we are very curious, mostly it's a Chinese community, as mostly because we don't know about it. And we only went once to Shanghai. We're gonna go back in September for a longer tour, but it's I would say that it's mystery triggers us. And also we had the opportunity this year to visit two very interesting spots, very similar cities in many ways. One is Dubai and the other is Singapore. The community was small compared to the big Europeans. I mean, I'm speaking about this because Europe, we know about it, but these more exotic places, Dubai and Singapore were meeting point of many countries that you don't usually meet. Like in Dubai, there were people from...
by you, we mean from our...
Yeah, that we are not usually exposed to. To people from Syria. There were a lot of people from Syria, Jordan, Lebanon, Emirates, and some African countries, and we met them there because it was a hub for many of them. Iran, and in Singapore there were all the Southeast Asia, like Malaysia, Vietnam, Cambodia, Indonesia.
Also.
Yeah, so it's these spots, maybe because they are a little bit more free than their neighbor countries, had the capacity of attracting tango people. So these are, I would say, interesting spots to visit for anybody.
And I'd like to add a cheesy dedication to the community in Turin, which welcomed us 2 years ago already. And it was a big discovery for us. We knew a few people there before moving, but when we moved there, we really found a family as a community, and it was really special for us, a special meeting.
Why did you decide to move to Turin?
Well, we moved to Turin in the middle of pandemic, and it was very depressing time, as for everybody, I'm sure. In our world, meant to go from everything to nothing in a moment, and it's not just the lack of job that for many was hard. We had the we recently moved just before pandemic, so we were staying in our hometowns, so we had the support of our family. So it's not that we suffered from that point of view, but we missed so much the human contact that was our daily thing. And so after a first moment, we felt like we were really becoming miserable. I was on the couch 24 hours. So at some point we got shaken and said we need to do something. And in Italy there were a lot of lockdowns, as in many other countries, but it was particularly strict. And at some point it looked like there was an opening, and we felt we need to change something, we need to move, we need to create again motion. And we tried to pick a city. We actually wrote it on social media. which is something that we might do more in the future. It was very interesting since we are kind of free of moving in places, and the Turin community welcomed us to go there. And eventually a new lockdown strike. So we actually moved in Turin without job again. But we were in motion already. So we created an online school that was pretty successful during pandemic. And we made new friends. And so it was a great choice, I would say.
Nice. Coming back to travel, how do you keep up the energy for so many travels? Like I have once a year, I have maybe 3 or 4 events in a row. And the fourth event, like right after the show, I want to go back to the hotel and like close the door because it's too much people, and you are traveling all over the year, like all the time. How do you manage?
It's super exciting for me. I really love it. And what I find really mostly difficult, like, I'm sorry to say something that might sound banal, but the most difficult part is leaving, thinking that you don't know if you're gonna come back, or because when you travel in tango communities, I think all tango lovers might agree that it's very engaging for the person. It's meeting people that in a moment become friends, and you share a lot of moments together, sometimes all day long together, and then all of a sudden you travel back home or to another place, and it's always very emotional to leave, hoping that this connection will last. And so I guess, well, for me, it's also kind of the really first year of such a tight schedule. And I'm simply super excited about this. It's discovering many new places, but also places where we come back after months or years. And there we find friends that we already know. And it's always a great joy to re-meet everybody. So, yeah.
Well, I should say that we started to travel with this rate of every week about a year ago. So we might meet again in 10 years and we might tell you why we cannot anymore. But no, jokes aside, we try to keep a sense, we try to remind ourselves all the time to don't give anything for granted. And that even if it was great in one community, it's not granted that we would be back. So we try to take advantage and enjoy every moment, any opportunity. And this feeling of gratitude that we try to keep reminding ourselves makes this very enjoyable. On a more practical note, I would say that we are kind of getting the habit of moving around, and we kind of allow ourselves little pleasures. Like during the week, I wouldn't watch a series, for example, but during traveling, I binge watch all the most useless TV series ever. So at some point, I kind of put myself in the state that I crave the airplane time because it's the pleasure time. We read and we watch movies and we do useless stuff that in the busy schedule we try not to do. So it's as soon as we sleep enough and eat well, it's good.
And apart from work, we are also enjoying our hobbies. First of all, social dancing around. So Gianpiero just mentioned about going to hubs like Dubai or Singapore, that were two places where we met very different communities from the communities we were used to. And it was really beautiful, really inspiring. And the other one, which is traveling and discovering around, which is beautiful, having the chance to take some moments to visit places, natural amenities or cities and different cultures, exploring also different foods. So we love it.
Is there a challenge, because you spend so much time then together, for you as a couple? With this happening?
I mean, we are together all the time, so we are.
Lucky you are nice people. Like that makes it easier, but still.
Yeah, we are a couple, but you know, it's almost funny. We are a couple in life, and we are a couple working, and sometimes at some point we kind of get enough of each other, but we miss each other right away. If sometimes I would say, that's enough. Take a day with with your friends. We end up missing each other very soon. And the funny thing is that when one of us starts doing a hobby, like 1 year ago, we discovered yoga, for example.
Who discovered yoga?
You discovered it.
Well, no.
But I would say that she discovered most of our hobbies. Before yoga was, acrobatics.
Discovered.
So one of us goes into this new thing, and the other, usually me, follows. So we end up doing even hobbies together, and we have the same friends, so we are together all the time. And well, we like to say that we are, first of all, best friends. So it's a pleasure to...
Actually, during pandemics, we could experience more kind of private time, because sometimes we had different hobbies. Like the whole day at home, we were doing different activities.
Being in different rooms.
We felt like, even in the same room, it felt like being very distant because we were doing most of the time different things. Maybe meeting for a little bit of work, and a little bit of physical activity, and all some pleasure time, but we were also doing many things alone.
Yeah, so during pandemic, where we were in the same room, it was the most distant time.
And I still remember one thing that was difficult to kind of convince you was one moment in Salerno where we were going to two very different kind of gyms. Gianpiero was going to a very fancy gym, like a place that you could think it was a spa, but it was not. It was a gym, but super fancy, warm place with sofas. You get in not even with stairs, with a elevator, and you have food to go, and you have super nice rooms to changing rooms, and instructors that are very kind. And at the same time, I was going to another gym, which was it was an open space where there were mostly sports, like there was some acrobatics and jiu-jitsu, or many fight sports, if I can say this, because I was not doing them, but I could watch them. Many kids playing around, and then there was the ring where also people were fighting, and it was a very cold space because there was no heating. And so when you entered that space, it felt very noisy, very, very cold, but very energetic. And I was saying, Gianpiero, look, this gym is cold, it's very uncomfortable, but at the same time, it's lovely. Like, people are so alive, and it feels very artistic, and you have to try this, you have to try acrobatics. And we got into acrobatics for a moment, and he at the first moment he was a little bit afraid of losing all the comfortabilities, but then actually he got even more engaged than me in doing it. So that was maybe the moment in which it was more difficult
because I'm more consistent.
But it was, a moment.
How do you pick the organizers you work together with? Like, because probably there are a lot of people asking you to come to their place. How you say, this is the right one, this is not the right one?
Because they have nice classes. No, no. So, like it happened also with you, or in other circumstances. I always like to say this, that I love tango, and I love to work with it, and I really want to do this job until I'm old. And so it's all about relationships, not about one-time things. So we mostly, all the time that is possible, try to know a little bit about the persons, and we are very lucky. I would say 80 to 90% of the people, of the organizers with which we are working, we know them personally, and we have a relationship that is more than just a work relationship. And this makes everything so easy. And it's an opportunity that I'm so sorry for people doing different jobs cannot enjoy this, of being even friends with people you are working with, as this is sustainable, and it's actually something that builds up. Tango can be about business, but I have the sense that when it's about business, has a short lifetime for everybody.
And how do you handle it when it's not the 80% where you are happy with, but
So of course we always try to have new contacts, and most of the time. So what we do, the way in which we live tango, the way in which we dance, the way in which we teach, I sense that attracts already the right people for us, at least. So we have surprises very rarely, because there is I would say, a selection already from people that are interested in what we are doing. And so if the deals are clear, and we try to make stuff as clear as possible, then it's open. But of course we end up going back to the spots that we enjoy the most. So the little risk of having a bad surprise are nothing in compared of the opportunities to refine more and more the relationships.
And where do you enjoy dancing privately, like for social dancing, the most? Is there a spot?
No, I wouldn't say a specific location. There are places in which we have many memories where we love to come back. But again, it's super exciting, at least for me, that I have a shorter experience. I'm always excited of knowing new places. It's always a discovery. So I really don't have a specific preference.
We try to. It's very important to, we told you a lot of good things that we think good about, but it's actually important to keep an attention, to keep enjoying it, because anything can become a pain if one gets bored or one gets inspirationless. So one component is about social dancing, for example. We love it. I always say that tango professionals can come from two directions. From the more artistic direction, like stage dancing and stuff. So people that probably had that already a professional background in some artistic part, dancing or otherwise. Or from down, meaning from the milonga, from the social dancing. We are definitely of this kind. And in order to keep enjoying what we are doing, we have to keep enjoying the social dancing. So this has to come with the thing that as much as possible, we try to expose ourselves to social dancing and the kind of social dancing that we enjoy. So we try to not force ourselves to go dancing if we don't feel like, not to dance with people we don't feel like dancing with, because nobody's gonna have a good time. We are not gonna have a good time. They're not gonna have a good time. And if we are every day still excited about dancing tango, it comes from the mandatory purpose of keeping it as an enjoyable thing. Because if we enjoy doing it, eventually we can spread excitement when we go around.
How do you pick the people where you think, I would enjoy to dance with that person?
So, going around most of the time, tango world, it's still, let's say, not a super big world compared to others. So when we travel, most of the time we meet friends. So I love to dance again with friends. So for sure, one part of the night is dance with friends. But then I also enjoy to meet new people. So sometimes I get recommendations from friends. Some other times I get inspired by watching them on the dance floor or watching partners of those dancers, how they enjoy it. And also, I remember there was a marathon where I didn't know most of the people, and I was very tired physically at that moment, but still I wanted to dance, and I felt like I don't know exactly with whom. So I didn't know exactly with whom I wanted to dance. So I picked a method. I wanted to dance a tanda from the past. So somebody that maybe I've seen in the past in other events, but never danced with or never get in contact with. And then a tanda from the future. So it's maybe a beginner or somebody that I've never seen in the tango world, and then a tanda of somebody that I got in contact in the moments out of tango, like somebody sitting next to me or in the same table, or that maybe in the marathon I was chatting with in the at the dinner moment. So more present connection. So trying to always feel this wider world of tango. It was just a moment. I don't know. Maybe it will come handy in another moment.
I love recommendations too. So if I have a trusted friend, which taste I trust, just like with books or movies, I love when a friend that I trust tells me, you should read this movie, or you should read this book or watch this movie. I don't want to know anything about it because I like the surprise. So also in dancing, if there is a friend that I can trust, who do you recommend? I don't even want to see. I trust and I go for it. But when I can look, so if I can tell something, I normally like to watch the dance floor, and I generally choose who I would like to dance with by the shape of the embrace, and if they do a good pivot. It's my normal checklist.
So we know how you choose your dance partners. What kind of music do you choose to dance to?
That's very. I decide really in the moment. There's no. I cannot say this now because it's very linked to the present moment, I would say, and to the person that I would like to dance with, or even I don't know. Sometimes it's a space. Sometimes it's how I feel. It's really, it can change very widely.
It's a lot about the mood. If I'm in a good mood, almost anything works. But otherwise, I care about the wave. So what's most important for me for a DJ is not to pick good music, because at the end of the day, if one doesn't want to be extremely original, we all know the good songs. So, but the way in which the emotional, climatic wave of the night goes might change a lot for me. And like I'm a big lover of Troilo, for example, but it has to be prepared in a good way. So I would say that there is no music I would dance no matter what in any moment. If it's not it's like a journey. Even every night is a journey, and which the DJs has kind of the responsibility of navigating its crowd toward.
But I love discoveries, for example. I love to listen new music on the dance floor. It's something that I really enjoy. And also new songs, like not only classic tango, not only covers by modern orchestras, but also new tango songs. It brings me a lot of joy.
Does it inspire you to pick other music for the performances? In Sarajevo, you told the people that Lorena chooses the music you perform to normally. Do you get inspired by that? How do you pick the music?
Yes. So, discoveries, sometimes I get stuck in my mind and I just want to dance them. So,
she comes and say, tonight we're dancing this.
But we also have, I think, songs that we have been enjoying dancing together in social dancing, or there's no, I wouldn't say I have a method for this.
I can say this, that when we are, so the moment in which we are listening the most is during lessons. And so we try to use different playlists. Sometimes I'm sorry for our students because we want to experiment new stuff that we don't normally listen to. And we love so much Spotify, but this is great. And so we put the music, and she very often comes by the phone or the tablet and puts a like on that songs. And so it's like a little bit like taking notes. And so we revise the songs we took note about afterwards. And I would say that we have a pretty big list of stuff that eventually might trigger research on that with that album. Or
yeah, it's very it follows a little bit our flow in the moment.
Mm-hmm. Can you describe the differences to perform to like old recordings, or like you mentioned, the covers of new orchestras of the old songs, or like completely new songs, or you also dance a lot to alternative music? How does it influences the performance?
For sure, the history behind every piece is strongly influencing us, and our listening and our emotion. Also, performances that we've watched live or by videos, by teachers and colleagues play a big role on many songs. Like even there are songs that I feel that I cannot dance because I'm too much in love with such an interpretation that I don't dare dancing. So but on this we are very open to change. So I would say we let it be a process that on one point is natural, unconscious, let's say. On the other point, sometimes we have talks on interpretations. We always improvise, but we like to talk on interpretation before and after shows.
How does this piece make you feel, and what's the...
Yeah, so sometimes we have fun, some other times it gets animated, and we really...
Sometimes we cannot dance a song because we see it too differently. So, of course, building a performance, we are... For us, it's very important. This you might have by now guessed it. Important, the concept of the wave, and so for us, a performance has to build a bigger story, not a didascalic exact story, but an emotional story. So we usually start with some introductory long ample song that it's to meet the crowd and introducing the mood in general. Then usually we are
preparing ourselves
too.
Have a first meeting.
Eventually, sometimes we swap the order with something very rhythmical and powerful, and something more dramatic but also thick and dense. And then we try to go through a cathartic loosening of it with something a bit more fun, and we usually dance valse, for example, after this.
Valse.
And then saying bye, sometimes with something more easy or fun, or sometimes we like to end with fireworks. Recently, we are trying to experiment in going to a more soft goodbye, and I take the opportunity to say to the camera now that we are actually dancing alternatives, yes, but everybody thinks we are dancing alternative songs way more than we actually do. For some reason, when we dance, because YouTube is the truth. So, for some reasons, the performances on alternative songs are more watched than many others. So they get views, and the algorithm shows them. So when you Google us or look out for us on YouTube, a big percentage of the first 20 videos are alternative. So at some point, we had a full year. We stopped recently. We danced a couple of alternative songs lately, but we dance alternative each once every 3 or 4 shows. And because we wanted the people to stop thinking about this, because at the end it becomes a statement, right? Like people thought that we were dancing alternative songs, and at some point they thought that we wanted to say something with it, that probably tango music has to change, or that you should open to tango, which was not what we were saying. And so for 1 year, we didn't dance any alternative, trying to kind of refresh this opinion. And music plays a big role, and tango is widening. So alternative music, for instance, is very special because since it's not tango music, there should be a strong reason, I think, why to dance a piece. We are actually not enjoying to listen at alternative music in a social milonga because it's so special that it's hard to be special for many people at once. So maybe 3 are super enjoying in one song while all the others not. And a social place, it's so much a place of sharing. So we kind of all have to agree on what we like in order to have a vibe of the room. That's why in a social environment, we personally prefer traditional tango. And new music, of course, is opening new horizons that I think it's still early to say, because we are witnessing right now in the last 20 to 10 years that there's most tango music. And of course, they have to sit until a generation of music, kind of like the wine makes it more aged.
We're coming nearly to the end. When you told that that you watch a lot of videos of other couples, what are you looking for? Like, when do you say this video is inspiring, or like, is it the movement? Is it the choice of music? Is there something you are searching for?
No, and actually, this was also another thing that changed in my watching shows, because at the beginning I felt that I was searching for the thing that I already liked. So I was kind of checking in the shows the taste that I liked. This was as I was watching shows in the beginning, but then I was amazed more and more during the years that I discovered that actually what I love the most is to get inspired by things that I didn't thought of. So sometimes it's and sometimes it's a novelty, something new, something very innovative. But some other times it's also the couples that interpret beautifully something that can be very traditional, but still, since it's 2023, it's already innovative because it has their personal life of the present moment and their personalities that gets it very special, even though it can be super traditional. So nowadays we are mostly checking new videos coming out on 030, and so just if there was a festival that was on the other part of the world, we just watch shows and get inspired by them. So at least for me, I try not to decide what I'm looking for beforehand.
She's very also. I'm much more impatient with it, so I must confess that while which I admire, she watches so many videos beginning to end. I kind of full shows beginning to end,
which I think it's very important. I underline this because
it's a story. Yeah?
It's already not the same of being on place, but still watching the full show, it's very different from watching a few seconds or just one song. So I recommend listeners this.
So I would actually recommend her strategy. While what I do is I kind of put videos and watch the first 15, 20 seconds. If I'm bored, I switch and I switch and switch and switch. And then I look for truth. I look for excitement. I look for commitment. And I easily get bored by doing something just because others are expecting it. Nobody is safe from this, of course, not even us, even if I'm talking about this. And what I love is when I watch a performance that is saying what that couple seems like want to say. But when I find an interesting performance, I can watch it over and over, even the same piece, as there are some jewels that has to be looked from different angles.
And I love, but I think I can also talk from your point. It's also watching shows from the past. And I remember in the pandemic, Super Sabino, an Italian super famous DJ. He was posting many videos that I think they were coming from VHS. So they were not on YouTube. They were videos from the past, maybe from the 90s. And
we're so glad he had the time to pass everything digital. And so he started to upload.
It was so inspiring, so inspiring. Yeah. Also watching couples that maybe I felt that I knew their style, their teaching. Well, I've been attending their classes, but it was such a discovery to see shows from the past of their early years of their evolution. It's such a rich process to follow the evolution of couples, especially all these maestros that have been teaching and performing since 2 or 3 or 4 decades.
Awesome. So the last question I want to ask everyone who comes into this room and gets the interview, if someone starts to dance tango tomorrow, what would be your recommendation for them?
First of all, go to dance and enjoy your kilometers on the dance floor. And yes, try to experience with full commitment, emotional and physical commitment. Try to invest energies in the process because it pays back so much with enjoyment and personal growth.
And I want to say to wait and give the time to make this interest grow and become eventually love, because when you love something, you respected, you are curious, and it's less judgmental, and it's more open. So what is dangerous for anyone is to get to something and cherry pick things and to say what one doesn't like or what one likes. And it's tango is becoming we are on the verge of a new era, as tango is growing in its numbers, in its quality all around the globe. And there are novelties, and these novelties it's important not to become disruptive, because any motion that is supported by enough people, could be alternative music, could be a different shape of the embrace, could be a different dynamics on who leads and who follows, anything new. We shouldn't, as a global community, be per se closed to novelty, but we really should do, because tango already, everybody that says the real soul of tango, probably the soul of tango, whatever it is, and I don't dare to define it because I don't know, we kind of experience it as something that passed through us. Tango changed so much along the decades, centuries now, that anybody that wants to conserve it as it is, probably back in his time was the one who changed it in the first place relative to the previous generation. And so, but probably did it with love. And of course, we are loving our experiences, loving our the time that passed, and all the stuff that happened. So by coming into tango and observing what's happening around, respecting what's happening around, eventually we can all act inside this shapeless yet super strong cultural movement that it's hard to define and yet kind of keeps us linked. So I would say love, observation, curiosity.
Thank you so much. Thank you, and thank you for being in the first edition of the 030 Tango podcast. Tell the people again, where can they find you?
www.lorenagianpiero.com. We have all our social media listed and our tour dates.
Perfect. And for more tango videos, go to 030 Tango on YouTube and on our homepage and everywhere else.